There are 21 Spanish-speaking countries on this planet, and some of them have notoriously difficult accents to understand. Some more difficult than others, but some in particular take the cake. Now, this list is of course just my personal opinion as a non-native Spanish speaker and as someone who is just very interested in Spanish. I love Spanish. I've been doing it for 10 years. All right, so here we go. Here is our ranking table. For the very top, the red, the S tier, we're going to be putting the absolute most impossible accents. Something akin to listening to a Scottish person speak English.
That
doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. A tier is going to be more reasonable to understand. Let's not take A tier for granted, okay? S tier obviously is going to be the most impossibly difficult to understand, but A is also very difficult. B is like middle of the road. B would be like you're pretty proud of yourself as a Spanish learner if you can understand this, but it's not impossible. C tier is going to be a little bit easier than that, something much more realistic to understand, and D tier would just be honestly basically easy to understand. All right, so we're starting off with the Colombian accent, okay? I've known a lot of Colombian people, and a lot of them have told me the same thing, that the Colombian accent is the most easy to understand. It's the most neutral accent among all of the Spanish accents.
¿Cuántos cafés te tomas?
Uno grande que hago yo espectacular. Nadie más se lo toma porque todo el mundo, esto que es horrible, pero para mí es la cosa más divina y me lo como con una arepa colombiana. Ese es mi desayuno todos los días.
Bien.
Okay, it's the thing to remember is as a non-native speaker, like it's really fast. Now I will give it to you. Okay, actually I might lighten. Originally I was gonna put Colombian in the A tier. I think maybe it's more like in the B tier. All right, moving on. We've got Cuba. Okay, Cuba. Where to begin? They don't pronounce their S's. They speak super fast. Everything is slang. It's nearly impossible to understand, which is why I think Cuba is going to actually be our first S tier.
Repita conmigo. R con R cigarro.
R con R y cigarro.
Rápido. R con R.
One of the difficult things about Cuban isn't necessarily even the speed, it's the way they cut off their words. It's not that they're mumbling, it's just the way they talk. Like, just look at this clip real quick.
Aparte de que van a conocer Segovia también, es decir, que van a tener de todo en un solo video. Así que si te interesa esto, pues quédate por aquí.
It's sometimes when they start picking up the speed, that's kind of when it becomes essentially impossible. That to me is the S tier. All right, so yeah, I'm pretty confident with my answer here. I think Cuba is going to be our first S tier. Y el próximo acento es de México. Generally, it seems like people seem to agree that the Mexican accent is more or less neutral. A lot of people seem to say they don't speak very fast. Look, if you Google the easiest Spanish accents to understand, pretty much across the board, you're gonna get the Colombian and Mexican accents. But I kind of have to disagree.
Y enfrente hay otros niños y al lado hay otros niños. Y el día de hoy, pues digo, puta, ¿será que todo el tiempo la ciudadanía va a tener que quedarse callado? Miedo a...
See, when it starts picking up, it's difficult. That said, I'm not sure it's more difficult than the Colombian accent. For some reason, to me, Mexicans speak super fast, but it is pretty clear. I'm gonna put Colombian C. I'm gonna put Mexico in B. I'm switching it. We're gonna leave it at B. I think it's ahead of the Colombian accent. Up next, we have a guaranteed S tier. Okay, I think honestly, so if we're just being honest right now, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, those are 3 S tiers. So we're just gonna put these all up here right now. Now, as far as what order to put these in, I feel like it kind of just depends on your personal experiences. My personal experiences, I think Cuban has got to be the one that I've had the most trouble with. Then again, trying to watch some clip of Bad Bunny talking is also virtually impossible.
El otro día yo estaba diciendo, diablo, no jodí lo suficiente en esta gira, en la de el Mo Wanted Tour, que era como que papi, la última gira tirando temas de trap y eso.
See, I don't even think he's speaking that fast right now. I think if you're from Puerto Rico, he's probably speaking slow. Also, like in Puerto Rican Spanish, the R's get turned into an L. So that can kind of create it just creates this whole other sound to the language. And then the Dominican Republic kind of has like the same thing going on with their accent.
Tú demuestras lo que es tu sentimiento. Tú sabes que yo sé que tú eres una persona que ha pasado mucho trabajo, ¿me entiendes? ¿Por qué estás para este bloque tú ahora? ¿Por qué?
Para este bloque.
Echa un plum.
Like, I've been learning Spanish for 10 years. I feel like I understand Spanish very well, but this is like the final boss. Honestly, actually, after listening to that clip, I might have to say that we're gonna have to put Puerto Rico last. Cuba, DR, Puerto Rico. Up next, we have Chile. Chilean Spanish, in my experience, really is another world within itself. But because it's kind of in this world within itself, it ends up, again, being extremely difficult. Lots of slang, just the S is there's more of a sh sound or a sound. Honestly, I can't even really do it. Also, if I'm remembering this correctly, Chilean Spanish has like more conjugations. Okay, yeah, look at this. In Chile, there are various ways to say you are to one person. I learned Spanish, so I'll just say tú eres, or you'd say usted es. But look at this. Their list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They get 6. Chilean Spanish basically just completely nixes the letter S. They're just like, yeah, no, that's not part of our language anymore. Take this for an example.
De los días de la semana. Lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, sábado.
Okay, I guess they said the S in sábado, pero it just gets cut off. I think I'm gonna have to put Chilean Spanish in A tier. It's very much its own thing, which makes it very difficult, but it's beautiful, and they do speak it lightning fast. Up next, we have good old Argentinian Spanish. All right, obviously one of the main characteristics of Argentinian Spanish is the y sound, like in yo me llamo, turns into yo me llamo, okay? And I think, honestly, this clip is a pretty good example of that, as well as just the difficulty of this accent.
No sé. Yo creo que va a ser más fácil porque a los jugadores sudamericanos que vienen a Europa le cuesta mucho al principio adaptarse al fútbol europeo, porque es totalmente distinto. Pero yo que estoy acá ya me parece
Yo que ya estoy acá.
Más fácil.
How do you say that?
Distinto. Pero yo que estoy acá ya.
Yo que estoy acá ya.
Me parece que va a ser más fácil porque voy a tener más partido europeo y todo eso.
Now, maybe a younger me, newer to Spanish, probably would have put Argentinian Spanish in the S tier, but I would say I've noticed an increase in Argentinian culture kind of being spread out on the internet. There's a lot of Argentinian musicians that are extremely popular, Nicki Nicole, Nathy Peluso. So I've had some more exposure to it. I feel like the world has had some more exposure to it. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. Now, because of Argentinian Spanish seemingly growing more into the cultural zeitgeist of the world, I personally have noticed that the Argentinian form of Spanish is becoming increasingly popular to learn. Now, if Argentinian Spanish is something that you are personally interested in learning, I would like to introduce you to a company that I'm now partnering with called Worldsacross. The fact of the matter is, you're not gonna get good at a language, and you're not gonna be able to learn a specific Spanish accent if you are not exposed to it and immersed in it in a significant way. And so Worldsacross helps with that. In its most bare bones explanation, Worldsacross pairs you with one-on-one tutors to help you learn Spanish in a more immersed and personalized way, which Worldsacross in fact does have multiple tutors that are Argentinian that can help you with your Argentinian Spanish. Now, of course, there are other tutors that are not just Argentinian. There's a lot of tutors from Venezuela, from Mexico, from Colombia, so there's a diversity here for you to choose from. Look at this, there's a giant list of all these different tutors that you can pick from, so you can kind of go through and try different ones out, see what actually works for you. If this is something you're interested in, I have a link in the description for you to go sign up. You can do a free trial. Also, you can use this promo code, Joe Sapinski, to get 20% off of your first month. Up next, we have Paraguay, which from what I remember are heavily influenced by the local indigenous language Guarani. Something like 90% of people in Paraguay are actually bilingual. They speak Paraguayan Spanish and Guarani. Now, Paraguayan Spanish is supposedly one of the slower, more melodic sounding Spanish in South America, Latin America. But given, in my opinion, the ease of understanding accents from like El Salvador or Honduras or Guatemala, Paraguay made its way into my top 10. Now, because it's spoken so slow, I think kind of right off the bat, I'm just gonna sort of predict that this is gonna go into D, but let's check out a clip of someone from Paraguay speaking Spanish.
¿Cómo escribiría vos, profe, la evolución del acento y de las modificaciones que tuvo a lo largo de este tiempo?
It is very slow and sort of melodic sounding, but again, they're doing that thing where they drop the S's and a lot of the words, at least to me, sound like they're getting cut off. So yes, for those reasons, I feel pretty confident D. Paraguay is going to be in D. It's going to be the easiest, basically, of this list, but that's not to say that it is easy overall. And boom, suddenly the lighting is completely different. And that is because now it's nighttime and I had to finish filming the video at nighttime. Up next, we have the Peruvian accent. So fun fact, I'm a bartender. That's how I pay my bills currently. Hopefully one day I'll pay my bills with YouTube, but currently I am a bartender. And there is this regular, he is from Peru. His accent is beautiful. It sounds so smooth. It's clear. He speaks slowly. And it seems like all the other Peruvians that I've seen speak Spanish, they also speak slowly and clearly. But far and away, I think it's one of the most beautiful accents. It kind of sounds like they are speaking with a very small mouth. I don't even know if that makes any sense.
Nada especial. Tengo una lista de partidos que todavía la tengo ahí y voy acomodando algunas canciones que escucho nuevas que me gustan. Y cuando salgo a correr, cuando hago un poco de ejercicio, las escucho. Variado. No tengo una...
Like I said, it's just so chill sounding. It's beautiful. But next to Paraguay, it's gonna have to go into D. Up next, we have Uruguayan Spanish, which is in a lot of ways very similar to Argentinian Spanish. It is still very much its own thing. They do the sh sound instead of the y sound, for example. Instead of tú or usted, they use vos. And interestingly, there actually is some Portuguese influence because of the proximity of the country of Uruguay to Brazil. But this is also a difficult one. Okay, Argentinian Spanish, I put in A tier. Argentinian Spanish, I put in A tier because it deserves to be an A tier. It's extremely difficult. But Uruguayan Spanish is essentially, it's there too.
Pero este año, siempre cuando llega ahí a esos equipos, la Premier, de donde te pueden ubicar y a medida que pasa, te va haciendo fuerte donde tú puedes.
It's obviously very similar to the Argentinian accent. There's something different about it. I'm honestly maybe not even good enough at Spanish to really be able to tell the difference, but something about it seems a little bit easier to me. I feel like a lot of the Uruguayan people that I've listened to speak Spanish speak a little bit slower than what I'm used to with Argentinians, and for that reason, I'm gonna have to put it a little bit lower. I think that's probably gonna be B tier. I would say it's more difficult than Mexican Spanish, so I'm gonna put it right there.